Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and good Sunday. Today is Sunday the 17th, November 2019. And, let's get started. Let's talk about what the future is going to be like. 30 years into the future. First off, to understand what the future is going to be like, we have to take a look at the present. This global Ponzi scheme that the central banks are running have borrowed money into the future, far distant into the future. And what we've seen is growth that would not have happened if all of that borrowed money hadn't taken place. In other words, we've extended the debt and we're reaching the limit of how far this can go. It's an artificial bubble of activity and human activity. And what it's created is it's created peaks in everything. Peak oil, peak gold and silver, peak financial markets, peak government, peak auto industry, peak everything. Everything's peaked. Peak real estate markets. There's never going to be another time in history in the foreseeable future. Now, maybe if we move out like 500 years into the future, it might be another big boom. But this boom was incredible. It's lasted for a long time, far longer than most people thought it could. Now it's getting ready to burst. And the uncertainty that comes with this, for all of you people out there listening to my show, you're uncertain of the future. And why you're uncertain of the future is you realize that everything's in a bubble and about ready to burst. Yes, it's going to burst. And the changes it's going to make is going to be absolutely incredible. For the next 10 years. That's when the changes are going to occur, the next 10 years. And it's going to change everything, so that our future is going to look different. I'm going to tell you my vision of the future is what I'm going to give you 30 years from now. Is actually a bright vision of the future. It's not a dim vision. The dim part, the bad parts, are going to happen in the next 10 years. 30 years from now is what we're looking at, though. And by that time, things will have come back again, somewhat. But it's going to be different. It's going to be completely changed. The bubbles will have burst. The bubbles in governments, one of the biggest bubbles that will have burst. Government is going to be more accountable to the people 30 years from now. And this is going to be one of the biggest changes in government. Government's going to be smaller. And they will have lifted a lot of these stupid laws that they've put in place now. Laws that don't make any sense. Laws that restrict small business. Laws that restrict entrepreneurship. Laws that restrict just about every aspect of your life. It'll be all gone. And you'll be more open and free, allowed to do things that just make sense. Makes sense for the economy, makes sense for our world, makes sense for our environment. You'll be able to do these things. First off, one of the biggest changes is going to be automobiles. And that's where I'm going to go first. Infrastructure is at peak infrastructure build right now. The Chinese especially, they've built infrastructure up to here. The United States' infrastructure is in a bit of decay, but it's in peak infrastructure right now. They paved all of the sub-roads, the sub-secondary roads and stuff have all been paved. They were paved in the 1980s, 1990s, and through the year 2000, and they've repaved them once or twice since then. They might have a few potholes in them here and there. 30 years from now, those roads are going to be in such a state of disrepair from the 10 years of misery that we're going to go through coming right up. And the lack of money to repair them after that, those roads are going to basically be, whole stretches of them are going to turn back to dirt roads again. Other areas are going to be full of potholes, really bad. And there's going to be other areas in the road where the road's held up pretty good. So, needless to say, in the future, 30 years from now, the speed limits are going to be reduced substantially. But that's okay, because our cars are going to be completely different than they are now. Let me explain what the typical car is going to be like. And when people in the future, 30 years from now, see one of the cars we have now, they're going to be like, look at that, it's a behemoth. Look at that funny looking car, Ma. Look at it. Look at it. Look at the big wheels. Look at the thickness of it. It's like built like a tank. They're going to be like, wow, I never seen a car like that. There's going to be a few of them still left driving 30 years from now on the road. But when the kid sees one, they're going to be like, wow, look at that car, Ma. You know? Because they're going to look so different, so strange from the cars we're driving 30 years from now. And I'm going to tell you what the cars we're going to be driving 30 years from now are going to look like. They're going to have four-wheel independent suspension to take the potholes really well. Right? Tubular steel frames. They're going to have two different types you can buy. You're going to be able to buy one that's going to have like a 500cc engine on it. Top speed 50 miles an hour. The whole car is only going to weigh about 500 pounds. Now, you know the cars we have now weigh 5,000 pounds. Does it really make sense for a 120-pound man to hop in a 5,000-pound car and drive 3 miles to work? Chewing up all kinds of gasoline. Does it really make sense that he has to move all that steel, 5,000 pounds of steel, along with his little 120-pound body? Wouldn't it make more sense if his car only weighed 400 pounds? Motorcycle tires. Spoked wheels on these new cars of the future. This is what I see. And I see the engine size being reduced. Some of them having engines. About 500cc size engines. The whole car is only going to weigh about 500 pounds. Some of them, the electric versions, are only going to weigh 300 or 400 pounds. Whole car. And these cars are going to be capable, much more capable than the behemoths we're driving now. These cars, if there's a log across the road, these cars could possibly even climb over the log or go around it in the ditch and climb back up again. Because these cars are going to be very, very capable of independent suspension on each wheel and motorcycle-type tires with one lug nut right in the center instead of all these 5 lug nuts we have on our tires now. You take one of the wheels off of these newer cars that we're going to have, and you're not going to have to struggle to lift the wheel. The wheel's not going to weigh half of what the wheels on the cars we have now, on these behemoth cars we have now. These behemoth cars, the engine is like 4 cylinders or 6 cylinders, and it's like got a displacement of like 4,000 cc's. Or whatever, you know. These newer cars are only going to be like 400 instead of 4,000. 1/10 the size of the engine and 1/10 of the weight. But these cars will be able to get you around really fast. Top speeds are like 50 miles an hour. But you're not going to be able to travel that fast. So in other words, the roads conditions that you're going to be working with on these roads are going to be like wagon roads in the West. You know, there's going to be bumps and stuff. And you're going to have to slow down. You're going to be doing good if you can make 20 to 30 miles an hour getting someplace in one of these new cars. And so, travel's not going to really be a problem. But now let's talk about the interstate highways, the big highways, the 4-lane highways. What's that going to be like? They are going to, in the future, 30 years from now, those are the only roads that they're going to really maintain that's capable of high speed. In particular, they're going to really maintain the fast lane. And they're going to use it for truckers. The trucks are not going to change much. The trucks are going to be just like they are now. And they're still going to be speeding down there at 65, 70 miles an hour in that fast lane. Meanwhile, the people with cars, the ordinary people, are going to have the slow lane. And that's going to be for these new type cars. And they're going to be going at a leisurely pace of 30, 40 miles an hour. And simply what's going to happen is, if you get a road hog that's going too slow, 20 miles an hour, and he's getting them backed up behind him, they're going to honk at him, honk, 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 and he's going to have to get over to the right and let them pass. He's not going to go over into the truck lane because he gets squished. The trucks are just going to be whirring through that truck lane. And everybody's going to know that that truck lane is exclusive for trucks. And we're still going to deliver a lot of things with the trucking industry. It's still going to be viable 30 years from now. But now, the 10 bad years we're going to go through, 5 to 10 bad years, is going to reduce the world's population. And the biggest reason why, it's not nothing that nobody else couldn't figure it out. I'm just going to tell you the reason why is there's going to be a lack of medications during the dark years. There's going to be a lack of medications. There's going to be a very much lack of things like antibiotics. Even doctors are going to have trouble getting you an antibiotic. And you know, if you got an infection or something, you're just going to, if you can't get the antibiotics, you're in big trouble. And that's what's going to happen to a lot of people. And flus, they're going to have trouble. When governments get into trouble because of this financial crisis and governments start going broke, they're going to have trouble making sure that everybody gets vaccinated against the flu anymore. And all those years that we've been vaccinating is going to lead to troubles. Because people just aren't going to be able to get what they need. They're not going to be able to get supplies, certain things that you need. And the result is the population of the world, especially in the developing nations and stuff, is going to decrease instead of increase. In fact, we've already hit peak population, I think, already, and things are starting to settle back down now anyway. So, we're looking at a world that's probably going to have about 4 to 5 billion people on it 30 years from now. That's basically what we're looking at. Because those 10 years we got coming up are going to be really hard. Really hard. But the future looks bright. Now let's talk about food in the future, 30 years from now. What's that going to be like? Well, what's going to happen is that's going to be the single most expensive thing that you have to buy every week is going to be food in the future, 30 years from now. Food is never going to be wasted anymore. Food is going to be something that instead of having it big agricultural farms, big agro and everything, and them controlling the food scene completely, and them clamping down hard on anybody who tries to even have a garden in their backyard, those days are going to be gone. The crisis is going to end all of that. People are going to, 30 years from now, people are going to supplement their income by having a garden. And there's going to be local farm markets in almost every town. And the cities are going to have a vastly reduced population from what they have now. A lot of people are going to move out into the country during the hard years, the 10 years we got coming. The country is going to have much more people in it rather than the cities. So the population in the country is going to increase while the population in the cities decrease. And the people that live out in the country are going to have a rather nice lifestyle. They're going to have a garden. That produce that they sell is going to be very rewarding, indeed, to supplement their income. It's going to be well worth putting a garden in, and it's going to be easy to sell your produce. The way it is now, they got these big stores set up and everything, and they only buy produce from a certain manufacturer or whatever, a certain company, and we don't need you. If you got a garden, we don't. But they're going to be right on to get your produce in the future. And they're going to pay you top dollar for it. Because food is going to be the commodity that's going to be really valued in the world. After the 10 lean years we have coming, moving 30 years into the future, food is going to be just like cash is now. And there's another thing, money. Cash will be gone. Cash in its form we have now as a dollar bill, what they call a bill. The children 30 years from now in the future won't even know what a bill is. Don't know what coins are. There's going to be gold coins, silver coins, copper coins. And people have little change purses. But here's the thing. This is the way I see it. This is only my vision of the future, but I envision a future where the coins are going to be reduced in size. And they're going to be made out of the metal they're going to be solid. So if you've got a gold coin, it's not going to be some sort of electroplated coating. It's going to be solid gold, but it's going to be small. Very small, and it's going to be of very high value. You're probably looking at something in the order of a coin that's only like easy to lose them. So you carry them in a coin purse, and you're very careful with them. And be wafer thin, and they're only going to be really small. Small, little, tiny gold coin. It's going to have exceedingly great value. Most people aren't going to have any of those. They're going to have the little silver ones. And they're going to be wafer thin, too, and exceedingly high value. So a small silver coin that fits on the end of your finger that only weighs about 1/100th of an ounce is going to be like to be able to pay for a man's work for a day, sort of a thing. Or maybe not quite that much, but it'll be able to buy you a cart full of groceries. And it'll be easy to carry them in a very secure little coin purse. This is the way I see it going. At the same time, for internet transactions, we'll be using cryptocurrencies for internet transactions. And so those two asset classes are going to be where your money is in the future. And that's how you're going to pay for things. Now, that's the way I see it. This is just my vision of the future. So, security. By that time, the downsized government that we have, that'll be accountable to the people, will be doing an awful lot of their work that they do now, and they won't need so many people with AI, computer technology. Will be reaching a point of advancement where a lot of the government's processing of information will be done by computer. And they will have sensors everywhere. Sensors will be much reduced in size from what they are now, and they'll be all wireless. And we'll be all on like a network, internet network, where these sensors are all connected to the internet, and they'll have them everywhere. It's going to very much reduce crime, because what's going to happen is the camera sensors. Say there's a camera sensor embedded in a telephone post. You don't even see it because it's only the size of a pea. Tiny, tiny little thing. Wireless. Sending out a signal consistently. It's watching all the time. It's got a camera on watching. Say it's watching a certain street. Usual activity, like a kid bike riding down the street. That information of that picture will go back to a central computer where it uses a similar technology to facial recognition technology. And the computer instantly recognizes the activity, kid riding bike. Dismisses it. Doesn't pay any attention to it. But if a kid were to run down the street and do a cart stand or whatever, what do they call that? Cartwheel. Which is unusual activity. Immediately, the computer would flag that as, I don't understand what he's doing. The kid, doing a cartwheel in the middle of the street. I don't understand that, the computer. It flags it. Then sends it to another computer that has a larger database of activities. And the secondary computer would recognize it. Kid does cartwheel. And then it would take the appropriate action, whether to dump the file or whatever. So they're going to have layers of processing of the information stream that they're receiving through all these cameras that they have everywhere. Okay? The third layer, probably about the third layer, if something doesn't it passes through the third layer, it's still flagged, then an actual operator, a real person, comes and looks at it and tries to identify the activity. Now, all this happens in a matter of seconds. The first computer, it runs through the first and second computer probably within a nanosecond. And then it would be a red light would come on, flashing, and the operator would have to walk over to that terminal and take a look because he'd be on there 24 hours a day. They probably have triple shifts, different guys that work there to view. Viewers that are able to identify if the computer can't identify what's going on. And he just walks over and he takes a look and he's able to identify what's going on. Maybe it's some sort of activity that's against the law. In that case, he would push a button appropriate action would be taken, and the police would already be dispatched. It's simple as that. So it's going to be much harder to get away with crime through this layered security system that's going to be everywhere. And it's going to take much less effort for the government, because that one worker that, say they got 3 shifts, say they got 3 guys working there, they come in and they work at 8-hour shift, and they just check when a light comes flashing on. They go over and look at the screen and see what's going on. Those 3 men might cover the whole east coast of the United States, because the computer is going to be filtering through the majority of the work. It's only going to be when something really, a situation happens, that they're going to have to check and see what it is, and then dispatch further assistance. So it's going to be a system that requires much less personnel, actual personnel, than we have now. Now, the way I see it too, 30 years from now into the future, the biggest industry on Earth is not going to be the automobile industry anymore. It's going to be the robotics industry. Almost everybody is going to want to have a household robot to take some of the workload. And they're going to be multi-purpose. They're going to be programmable. They're going to, honest to goodness, they're going to be great. Sweep your floors, clean your toilets, wash your dishes. They're going to have human expressions on their face. They're going to have an AI so that you can actually talk to it and you become friends with it. You'll name it, and it'll become a family member. You will want to keep that robot for life. You'll just take it in and get it repaired. If it breaks, you're not going to throw it out because it's a family member. You're actually going to become attached, emotionally attached to robots in your house. And people are always going to, this is going to create a huge market, not just in household robots, but in industry and commercial activities. And they're going to be everywhere. And the big companies are going to spring up from nowhere that create these robotics. Is going to be the biggest industry out there in the world. It's going to be the robotics industry. And one of the biggest breakthroughs that's going to make all this possible is synthetic muscle. Instead of using motors, they're going to be using synthetic muscle tissue. And it's going to enable the robots to be more real, and it's going to be a big plus for the robotic industry. Robots are going to come unbelievable how much they're going to come in the next 30 years, how far the robotics industry is going to advance. It's going to amaze all of you how much the robotic industry will advance. Now, the automotive industry is going to change over. New automotive companies are going to spring up that produce these lightweight cars that'll get you there, a little bit slower, but it'll get you there, and it's going to give you a feeling of being more one with the environment and closer to the road. You're gonna in these cars, you're gonna actually hear the road noise more. There's not going to be all the doodads we have in the cars now. All of this insulation. You're carrying 500 pounds of insulation in your car, for crying out loud, to keep the road noise down. These new cars are just going to let the road noise happen. You want to take a trip, it's not like you're staying in your living room. You don't want to feel like, some people do. They like that luxury of being so quiet inside the car. It's like being in your living room when they take a trip someplace. They got a really expensive car nowadays. I call these behemoths. These new cars are going to have much less of that luxury feeling. They're going to be more like you're near the road. You're going to feel the road. You're going to be closer to your environment. You're going to be able to hear the things, especially in the electric cars. You're going to be able to hear and see the birds flying around. And on your trip, you're going to enjoy your trip more, even though it's a little bit slower. Not quite as fast. So, in other words, if you're making a 10-mile trip, you do it now in really fast, like 10 minutes or less. It's going to take 15 minutes or maybe 20 minutes to make the same trip in the future. but you're going to not be in such a rush. The world is going to be a slower pace. People are going to be more calm 30 years in the future. They're not going to have this feeling like the world's going to end always right in front of them, which causes anxiety. This anxiety that this causes affects our very cellular development on a cellular level. The stress that's induced by the world that we've created right now. And this, what's coming right away, is going to be the biggest disaster in the history of mankind. And what's a pitiful thing about it all is it's a man-created disaster. It's created by us, mostly by greed. So that's my vision of the future. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning probably, well, I don't know. Maybe it's another one of these holidays that sneak up on you. One of the things that's sneaking up on us is Deutsche Bank. You know. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.